done is done. The news came on the wings of a wind reluctant to carry its burden. Nelson Mandela's day is done. The news expected and still unwelcome reached us in the United States, and suddenly our world became somber. Our skies were leadened. His day is done. We see you, South African people, standing speechless at the slamming of that final door through which no traveler returns. Our spirits reach out to you, Bantu, Zulu, Xhosa, Boer. We think of you and your son of Africa, your father.
Well, there's just an excerpt of a special message that the late Maya Angelou, Dr. Maya Angelou, shared with former President Nelson Mandela. And in fact, the Nelson Mandela Foundation has joined the globe in mourning the passing of celebrated African-American author, poet and human rights activist Dr. Maya Angelou. Her groundbreaking memoirs, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, made history as one of the first non-fiction bestsellers by an African-American woman. And to tell us more about Dr. Maya Angelou's life, we're now joined in studio by poets Marakabe Rax Siakwa, Wright Associates, and Napo Mashanu. To both of you, a very good morning. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to you.
Thank you for having us. Morning.
And to the viewers, of course.
Okay, so perhaps let's just start with your own thoughts. You know, when you heard the news, one starts to reflect and think about this person that's passed. What were the first thoughts that came to you, and what will you take?
I mean, obviously, it's sad. The first thing that came to me is that every time a writer dies, it's like the whole library burns. You know, it's like a living library has literally burned in front of the whole world. So that's what I thought at first, but immediately also it was like, okay, what is my role? What is my job as a fellow writer, as a poet who's being inspired by her? And my thing was just continue carrying her voice, living her legacy, and continue carrying the baton across other generations. What
about you, Barax?
Yeah, well, it is quite a sad moment for all of us, you know, not only people in the US, but ourselves here in the country, in South Africa and across the world. As I was saying to you offline, we had invited Dr. Maya Angelou in 2012 when we were launching the Africa Century International African Writers Conference, one of the patrons being Chinua Achebe, who also left us, and Nadine Gorima, and Brahim Masekela, and Professor Gorabes Khositsile. And she really, you know, expressed the wish to be able to come, but then she couldn't because of ill health, but she wished us a very good conference. But at this moment also, I think, whilst we talk about the loss of this great writer, we must also remember what is happening now and what she would have said globally in terms of you know, environmental struggles, but about these girls, our girls who have been snatched you know, in the prime of their lives by this Boko Haram group in Nigeria. And I would like to just to read a line here that some of our friends in the causes movement around the world say. She may have said, "Just as hope rings through laughter, it can also shine through tears." And this is the message she may have wanted to pass to the girls that have been snatched. And we want to add our voice to the international clamor. Bring back our girls. And I think...
and she was good at that. I mean, so much so that President Clinton asked her to speak at his inauguration. She was more than a writer.
She was. Yeah.
She used words to tell stories and express thoughts. What is it about her, do you think, that made her stand out and be phenomenal as a human being in the way that she was?
Dr. Maya Angelou once said, or often says, that, you know, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I kind of feel that's who she is. You know, like you said, she was a storyteller, she was a mother, probably a grandmother, an aunt, a sister. But also I think, like, you know, once you get a role of being a mother, you become a mother to everyone else. And a mother makes you leave a space with a certain feeling. And I think that's what her work and her voice carries through. You know, once you hear her speak, you just get enticed in just not what she says, but how she makes you feel.
Talk to me about the skill in translating things that we see around us every single day. And she used to just find the right words and put them in the right way, and we just felt.
You know, Peter, to add on what Napo has just said now, she was an all-rounder. She was a rounded person. You'd know that not only was she renowned in the literary circles across the genres, you know, film, stage, as a dancer, as a singer, as a playwright, as a singer, but she was also an activist, a revolutionary, a journalist, a writer who connects with the people on the ground. She was one of those people who came to places like Ghana when it got independence, you know, to try to contribute to the speedy decolonization of the continent. And even beyond fighting against colonialism, she was one such person who made sure that her work, you know, in literature especially, impact very, very deeply on what's happening on the ground. So I think we'll really miss her.
And as you said, she had so many hats that she wore, activist, civil rights, and she was even connected with South Africa in a very special way, wasn't she?
Yes, she was. I mean, like the message that you played to Tata Mandela, but also just with you know, your Dr. Maya Angelou, Alice Walker, Toni Morris, for young black women writers, these are people that we looked up to. These are our points of references. You cannot be a writer and not know of them or carry their words within your work. And for us, it's also a loss as female writers, you know, across the globe, especially young African girls. Like you said with the Nigerian issue, she said, bring back our girls so that they can heal while at least we still have the energy to heal them. You know, they've been taken at their prime. So it resonates with that, with all of us.
I know that you wrote a book somehow inspired by Dr. Maya. Tell us a little bit about that.
I wrote a poem, Phenomenal Woman, of course, coming from, you know, inspired by her own phenomenal woman, and I gave it my own voice. But it was really inspired by what she said, that we are all phenomenal women, as writers, as mothers, as aunts, as grandmothers. Yeah.
How will she be remembered, do you think, and how ought she be remembered?
Well, you know, I wish we had all the resources practically to have some memorials across the country, across the world. But again, she has left a very strong legacy in her work as a writer, and as Napo says, you know, it's how she touched us that they will remember most by.
Okay, well, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very much to both of you for sharing this memory with us, with her. And I'm sure that throughout the course of the day, you're going to see pictures, you're going to hear her voice and her many, many works. And I think a lot of people perhaps are going to discover her for the first time, which is quite incredible. But this is what happens. And, you know, I was quite moved by her last ever tweet. She wrote, "Listen to yourself, and in that quietude, you might hear the voice of God." And that's where we're going to leave it for the time being. There'll be much more on Morning Live coming up.